Hi everyone. Today I'm going to do something different. I was asked the other day on one of my videos what kind of glasses I used. And, well, obviously it's not as easy a question to answer as it may sound because unfortunately I don't have the wherewithal to buy like 50, 60 glasses of one kind and use only those exclusively. But the truth of the matter is that there's a whole lot of tasting glasses that can be used to try spirits, ranging from wines to grappas to mezcals to whiskeys to rums to whatever. And there's no one size fits all. I've tried a whole lot of them over the last 15, 20 years, and there's a couple that I'll never use again. They're just too large or whatever. For my money, a good tasting glass is supposed to concentrate aromas more than anything else. You get the taste when you taste it, but the aromas is really where you get so much more than anything else. And if I had any sort of sense, I'd increase the weighting of the nose on my scoring to reflect that, because I get so much more on the nose than I ever get on the taste. That's just the way it works. So a glass that concentrates those flavors tends to be something that I look for. And so large glasses like tumblers or whiskey glasses or rocks glasses just aren't going to do the job. I'm in the business of trying to figure out what the notes are that I'm tasting and whether they work well together. And that's simply not going to happen with something that you put some rocks on a cocktail. No, that just isn't going to work. What I've got in front of me here is a selection of those glasses that I tend to use the most often. I've got one or two here and there of others, and this is by no means exhaustive. These are just the ones that I've picked up over many years, and I tend to use because I just don't believe that one size ever does fit all. Neither does size actually matter, except in the reverse of what you might think. But let's get started. So these two glasses here are supposedly wine tasting glasses, and I picked one up at Whiskey Live in Paris. I picked up another one at the Rum Depot's Berlin Rum Fest, and you'll notice that the shape is not really what they call a tulip shape, which we'll get to in a second. They're rounded, and they do a fairly good job of concentrating the aromas just about here and here. It's purely aesthetic that I don't find them particularly interesting, but they do the job. And in this case, the smaller one is actually my favorite because you can work with a smaller sample, which is so important sometimes when some cheapo tells you you've got like half an ml that you can play with, and you just kind of wet the bottom of the glass and you gotta fuck around with that. It's just the way it is. But I do like this one a fair bit. Aesthetically speaking, I don't really care for the shape that much. That's just a personal decision of mine. And I do use them fairly consistently because I have a fair amount of them over the years. I've picked up quite a few, and they give them out at these rum fests. You get one for free when you come in with a ticket and so on, so you get something to taste with. And I've been to quite a few. So these work really well. The larger one is good when you've got like 2 or 3 cl's worth of sample, a couple of ounces maybe, and quantity is not an issue. But I do find the small one just a little bit better. Now, the next one that I want to talk about would surprise you. It really, really would, because it's this little fucker here. It's bloody huge. Now, this is actually a wine glass, and you'd think, what on earth would you be doing with something like this? But here's the thing. When I went to the Tasting of the Century in 2018, where Hampton was being introduced to the world in London, and Luca Gargano had those 4 incredible rums out there, it was glasses like these, huge 400 ml or 375 ml wine glasses that we had to taste with. And at first, my reaction was pretty much what yours is, like, what the fuck? It's like, how can you even get anything? You get 1 ounce in there, and you're really straining. But the surprising thing is, these things are really quite incredible. Now, personally, I think 400 or 600 mLs is just literally too much. That really is a huge wine glass, and it just doesn't work for me. But this one here, which I picked up, surprisingly, in IKEA, really is quite nice, and they're actually quite cheap, quite affordable. The only issue is perhaps that they might take away too much space in your cabinet. You really can't fit that many in there. Secondly, you do need to have a sample of at least 1 ounce or 2 to really make sense of this. For really tiny rinky-dink samples, you're not going to get very far. But I can't say enough good things about a large balloon wine glass like this. Now, I'm not talking about a brandy snifter that is a bit more circular like that. I've tried those, and those really don't appeal to me at all. There's just something... It doesn't concentrate the vapors well enough for me, although I'm sure that brandy aficionados would take serious umbrage at that. But that's okay. This works for me. I do have about 5 or 6 of these. Yeah, I bought them in a box of 6, and one broke, so it's down to 5. I do find them quite useful. I do use them on occasion. Again, it's a useful thing when your quantity is not really an issue and you have something to play with. Now, probably the most common glass that I have noticed rum boys use is this. Now, this is called a Glencairn glass, and you can see it has that tulip shape, right? The Glencairn glass is probably the most common one for whiskey guys, and it's really come over onto the rum world as well. And it has just about everything that I like in a glass except one thing, and I'll get to that in a second. So it has the bowl where you can warm it up with your hands and the vapors can come up. It's got a fairly narrow top, right, that you can push your snoot into as long as you don't have a big schnozzola like I do, right? You can work with small or medium-sized samples. So, you know, I've used them for something as small as 1 ml, which is what my sample of the Appleton 50-year-old once was before I actually got something more substantial. The one thing I don't like about it, and it's a minor complaint and purely applicable to me, is while it works really well, it takes up no space on you in your liquor cabinet. You get them in boxes of 6. They're extraordinarily affordable. They're really quite nice. Is the fact that you can only hold one at a time, really. Now, what I mean by that is when I go around in a rum festival, I tend to not have just one glass. I always pick up one at the entrance and I always bring 3 of my own. So when I've got a situation where I'm running around the place, when you have a stem, you can hold them and play around with them. You know, you got one around your neck on that thing, you got one in this hand, you got 2 in that hand, and Christ knows where your notebook is, but whatever. But the point is you can hold a whole bunch at the same time. I think the most I ever held was like 5. But not really possible to do that with 5 of these unless you're walking around with a box. I mean, who the fuck wants to do that, right? So that's my only real issue. You can't transport multiples of them in a festival, but that, as I say, is completely applicable to me. Beyond that, this is probably one of the best all-round glasses anybody can get, and the best part about it, of course, is that it's extremely affordable, and you can get them fairly cheaply. I think there's an outfit in Toronto, in Ontario somewhere, that I bought like about 40 or 50 of these, you know, and it didn't cost me a whole lot of money at all. So for my money, this is definitely good. So now we're getting around to more or less the ones I use on a more regular basis, and no surprise, all of them have stems, and all of them are tulip shaped. And I do find that over time, the tulip shape is the one that does me the most good. I mean, the wine glass is not tulip shaped. You can see it, you know, it just doesn't work like that. But it is good for what it is, as I mentioned before, so I would never discount it completely. I just find that generally I like these better. Now, I've got several versions of these. Now, these are pretty much the same thing, and I don't know what you want to call these things. Tulip glasses, cognac glasses, grappa glasses, I really don't know. Right? They all have these fancy names, and they're all quite esoteric, but I just call them tasting glasses with a tulip shape, and I'm good to go. Right? I like the small one. It's a bit tougher. The glass is a bit thicker, right? This one is a bit larger. It's a bit, not quite as much delicate, but it can break more easily. I've gone through about 3 or 4 of these over the years that have just broke from pressure or temperature changes or whatever. They are common. I like smaller glasses because they can hold smaller samples. They still have a fair enough of a bowl that, you know, you can really kind of get a good snoot off of it. With bigger glasses, the only real difference is that you could put a larger sample inside, and that when you've got some cheap rum that you're not entirely sure of, knock yourself out, right? And of course, you can sip it. You know, you can hold it like this when you're moving around the place. I noticed that a lot of people hold it like this. That's not really my thing. I tend to hold it like, well, that. But overall, these are really nice glasses. Now, this is a grappa glass, which, is it this one? Yes, this is a grappa glass that I got from, I can't remember which tasting it was, but you'll notice that there's a slightly more flared lip here. And overall, this is really the glass I would prefer to have because I think I've gotten the best tasting notes out of it. It marries a lot of, you know, the shape of the glass and the size of the glass is just about the same as this little small thing. I don't know if you want to call it a copita or whatever. But the problem with this particular one is that the glass is really quite thin, and I'm always scared I'm going to break it. I mean, it just feels light in the hand, and when you're walking around and you've got, you know, if it's in your table in your house, then it's not a problem, but if you're in a place like a rum festival, you want to have something that can take a little bit of pressure and can be banged around a bit. I just don't get that feeling about this, right? Now, my favorite glasses are actually these two. Now, this is a cognac glass, and I bought it specifically from Amazon as a cognac glass, right? It came in a set of 4. I think it was a bit pricey, but I really want to try it. It's really kind of, it's tough. It's reasonably small. It can take it probably about 2-3 CLs and do really nicely. I quite like it actually, and the best part of it, of course, it really does. You really kind of hold it well. But ultimately, the one I like better is the smaller version of it, which is this one. Now, this is a glass that I picked up on a river cruise, in point of fact, in Berlin, when I think it was Kirsch Spirits was holding a thing last year, and my wife and I went and we took a look at it, and they had these lovely glasses, and I didn't actually take it deliberately. I just happened to have it, and then I walked off, drunk as I was, off the boat with it, and I have it. So, but I do find it's really quite an amazing glass, and it's let's see, I'd say it's about 5, maybe 6 inches high, and it's really is quite tough. I mean, the glass is a bit thicker, the bowl is really small. So again, with small samples, this one works really well. It's almost on a par with this one, except that it's slightly taller, a bit narrow, and so on, so it concentrates the aromas better. If I had to choose, it's going to be between these two, really. These are the most common ones I would use when I really have to pay attention. So there's a whole bunch of other glasses I'm skipping over because I actually don't have them. I mean, they're called copitas, and there's other kind of bowl-shaped things. There's whiskey tasting glasses. There's a whole bunch of them in Calgary in various places. But the truth is, at the end of the day, you've really got to go with what works for you. I think Marcus Elder from Single Cask Rum, he did an essay, a two-parter once, where he literally evaluated, I think it was like about 10 different tasting glasses to see which one worked best for him. And I wish I could do that, but I literally don't have all the ones that I want to have. For what it's worth, I usually put a piece of cardboard on top. There are some glasses that are sold, especially in Europe, with the actual little glass thunk on top, the glass hat that will allow you to keep your flavors inside, but I don't live in Europe anymore, so I just use a piece of cardboard, and that works fairly well for me. So these are the glasses that I use, and I've got several of each, except, of course, this one. But overall, I do try to stay consistent. I rarely taste more than 6 rums in a single session. Sometimes, if I have more, then I tend to split it up into multiples. So I have enough glasses to do all those things, and it's really quite useful to play with them in your own. Get as many as you can. Don't use the wide open things that just dissipate the aromas all over the place. You want to have something that can concentrate things. But then, of course, you also want to make sure that what you are doing is tasting and smelling something that's actually there, not have it dissipate all over the place, that you just go, you put your nose everywhere and nothing happens. I don't know if this is actually helpful to any of you, but I did have a reader who asked, and I thought this would be an interesting little thing. It's 10 minutes of your time gone here. If it's helped you at all, by all means, leave me a note and tell me if you have a glass of your own that's a favorite. Send me a picture if you want, put it up there. And if this has helped you at all, I'm really happy that it has. And we'll talk to you again some other time about something else, probably another rum. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.